Hello, everybody, and welcome to Hashtag Event Icons, where you get to chat with the icons of the events industry. I am Alex Plaxton, your host for today's episode, and I'm very excited because we are talking about something that I'm sure a lot of you are really excited about, and that is holiday party trends. So Halloween's tomorrow. We're already thinking about the holidays. So holiday season's in full swing. Let's get to it.
It's Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, so you know what that means. It's time for another episode of Hashtag Event Icons.
Presented by Endless Events.
The show where you get to ask the icons of the events industry anything.
Just go to www.event-icons.com to ask questions.
Our iconic guests will answer them live during the entire show. Before we get started, the more people we have watching, the better the conversation. So please help share Hashtag Event Icons
on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Just tell your friends to watch at www.event-icons.com.
Now, without any further delay, this is Hashtag Event Icons.
So today's guests are David Everett and Sydney Wolf from Metro Connections based out of Minneapolis. David, hi David, is the sales manager and designer for Metro Connections. He is recognized on a local, national, and global scale as a leader in the conception and execution of innovative event design and production. He has over 15 years of creative, technical, and management experience in the events industry, currently based in the Twin Cities. An early career in the performing arts, singing, dancing, and acting for 8 years. We might ask him to sing, including including 3 based in New York City. He set the stage for a theatrical approach to bringing customers' visions to life within budget and flawlessly producing once-in-a-lifetime events. Thank you, David, for joining us. And then
Thank you for having me.
Sydney, who is the director of sales for Metro Connections, with an eye for design and the ability to adapt and enmesh herself within a client's style guide, brand, and culture. Sydney consistently designs innovative activations and large-scale events that work to accomplish client objectives and showcase corporate brands in a positive and impactful way. Hi, Sydney. Welcome to the show.
How are you? Thanks for having us.
Sydney's actually been on the show. Sydney's actually been on the show before, but never talking about this topic. So very excited about that. And something you may not know about Sydney is that she's extremely knowledgeable about Grey's Anatomy and Disney.
Oh, I am. Look at that fact you just whipped out.
So we may get to some Disney trivia later. But first, we want to talk about, for David, because you have not put it on the show, we always ask any new guests, what got you into the events industry? And if you weren't in the events industry, what would you be doing?
Well, the industry kind of fell into my lap, to be honest with you. I was working at the Gap, and I met someone that owned a production and catering company, and just on a limb, asked her if she needed an event planner designer. During my first interview, she actually laughed me out of my interview. She said, God love that little boy from New York City. Like, we just don't do events like that. And he has these big visions and ideas of what events are all about. And she offered me a position, and I was with her for 15 years. So, and then I recently moved to Minneapolis to be closer to family, and I have landed my dream job here with Metro Connections. So really, if I wasn't in the event industry, probably would be back in the performing career. But I feel like I'm a little too old for that now. But truly, the theatrics is what it's all about, and I think it just plays very well in the event industry.
Awesome. Now, Sydney, we've already asked you this question once before, so we are asking you a new question, which is, tell us an interesting travel story.
An interesting travel story. So I went to Vancouver and Whistler for the 2010 Winter Olympics. So at the time, we went and we worked with a company. The games is divided into all these different subcommittees. So me and a bunch of college students at the time, we got internships, and I worked in the athletes village. And so it was a whole unique experience, traveling to a city where the games were taking place, going and interning there and experiencing it. It's an interesting travel story because we thought we were going to stay in dorm style accommodations. And we got to the Vancouver airport. We got in a van. We drove up the mountain to Whistler in the middle of the night. And when we showed up, we got out and we were on a campground. And we were living on the campground
Wow.
for a month and a half while we worked at the games. So they did these like temporary building structures that we stayed in. And it was an interesting one, that's for sure, but it was once in a lifetime experience. So it was a blast living and traveling in Whistler for a month.
That sounds like a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
know how I'd feel. I'd feel very like Fire Festival-esque now if I showed up and like unexpected
Yeah,
living
like
arrangements.
now that you mentioned, that's pretty much exactly the feeling, like from those documentaries when they like showed up and saw it. That's kind of how it went down. It worked out. I stuck through it.
more successful than Fire Festival, but yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So today I believe this is our first episode ever on holiday party trends, and of course we're going to be talking a lot about what's happening in 2019, but we'll also be mentioning some things that maybe some people aren't familiar with, but let's focus on this year right now. What makes 2019 different than last year?
Well, I think, every single year there's new trends that are phasing in and phasing out. There's pop culture phenomenons that are going on in the world that you can play off of with your themes for events. You have celebrities that are hosting themed parties that then people want to emulate or replicate. So I think when you look at a holiday party or any sort of concept, look as a planner, I think we take inspiration from what's going on in culture right now. What's the newest, latest, greatest thing that's happening?
Awesome. So what is the newest, latest, greatest? What from pop culture? What from pop culture are you?
Well, I've covered.
Hearing?
Well, I mean, I think as we were brainstorming for parties here in the office, that a couple. I'm a big talk show watcher, right? And so a couple years ago, well, I think it's like 5 years ago, when Jimmy Fallon took over the Tonight Show, for instance, people are looking for unique entertainment at their parties and different things they can do. So that's one of my favorite places to pull inspiration from, is looking at what's going on with Ellen or Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Kimmel, all those types of the skit comedy that's happening. I think looking at taking inspiration from that and incorporating, the Game of Games that Ellen hosts that's brand new into that environment, or hosting, all of the skits from the Tonight Show where it's like the Name That Tune or James Corden's Carpool Karaoke. I think constantly there's new fresh ideas there that can be pulled out of there and incorporated from an entertainment perspective. And I personally love that kind of stuff. I'm also a very competitive person though, so you never know.
And I mean,
So
for
lots
me, I
of
think,
YouTube videos and late nights.
Yeah,
yes.
exactly.
And I think something else that a lot of people in the industry really watch for the trends is what happened at the Met Gala. Whatever that trend, whatever that theme was, really replicating that at their next event. The Victoria's Secret fashion show is one that I look for the date every single year, because that is really trend setting on what textures, what colors, stage sets, medias that they're using during those shows, that really kind of dive into what we're going to do over the next year, what we're going to do for the holiday season. And then also the movies, looking at, Rocket Man, Bohemian Rhapsody, those big wow factor, hit, blockbusters that are out there right now is what people are watching and what they're experiencing. So how can you take pieces from those elements of those shows, movies, galas, fashion shows, and really turn it into an event experience?
Yeah, I think the movie aspect is something that I saw a lot last year with like The Greatest Showman, for example.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
That was huge.
Yeah.
So many different parties and events taking on that circus element and the music
Yeah.
from that. And yeah, absolutely. So I can definitely
Yeah, I
see
think
how that
music.
work.
I think music plays a huge role in, obviously, in any event, but especially holiday events are unique in that it's a corporate setting most of the time. So we're talking about corporate holiday parties, but then there is that social aspect to it. So you need to wine and dine and entertain. It's not just business. It's almost no business at all.
Right.
With the exception of you're there with your coworkers. So it's the unique, especially as corporate event planners on our side, holiday parties are the opportunity to dance, to have fun with themes, to have fun with like different technologies and ideas and, really blow it out of the water from a corporate perspective. Whereas maybe some social planners who get to work on bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs and kind of get to do crazier things than maybe your typical corporate event, we get to play with some of that in the corporate world during holiday time.
I think one of the big buzzwords that I've been hearing a lot over the last year and even in the past is the events have to have meaning to them. It can't just be, let's throw the employees in a room and let's just feed them. And what is that meaning behind what we're doing, the party that we're planning, and how it's all going to come together? And still, how are we going to tell a message throughout that entire event? I think is very important that a corporate company wants to make sure that they're continuing that brand throughout even their holiday reception.
So on that note, especially because we are talking corporate, what can make or break a holiday party experience for your client?
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I think one really the make or break is the venue. I think that is the one place that everybody starts, and that kind of goes to, what people need to not do anymore or what is dead of, unfortunately, clients sometimes don't want that ballroom setting. The corporate client wants to take them to a very unique space that has some really cool energy, entertainment within itself, that really can be a very cost-effective option. So sometimes they don't have to spend as much money on creating a full experience within the event space.
Yeah, because I think one of the first questions you should discuss, with your internal planning team or your event planner partner or whoever's helping with that holiday party is, what's your budget and what are you looking to get out of it? I think that's a huge driver in it all. And when we talk to a lot of clients, budgets vary, but your venue absolutely can be a make or break it, right? So you could spend a little bit more on your venue, but the value you get from that to set apart, it really sets the stage for the whole night. It's worth spending more money on that as opposed to maybe going with a cheaper venue option, but it doesn't give you as much built-in entertainment. So something like a zoo or a museum, where then you can call your holiday party a night at the museum and all of the entertainment is built right there into the exhibits. Or going to a racetrack and having your guests be able to drive the race cars around the racetrack. Or even a movie theater, right? And having like a night at the movies and host the newest film for your employees. We're not talking a lot of money to host a film for your employees to get to see it, but it's a cool environment. It's a fun experience that they get to go home and talk about.
You really want to look for that venue that's not always an event venue, and I think that that's something that the client is always looking for, the latest and the greatest. They don't want to do that, been there, done that. So really challenge us as an industry to really think outside that box and use something that may not always be a venue. One location we were talking about is, what about a roller rink? You don't have to, everybody doesn't have to have the liability of, getting a pair of roller skates and actually roller skating all night long. But what if the event took place in a roller rink? Just the energy and the feel and the throwback that you could have in that type of an event space.
It reminds me of that meme where it's the people going around and it's like, can you believe that like we used to just go around in a circle for an hour and like that was a party? Like that was our Saturday night. But it's true.
when you
nostalgia
talk about
plays into
trends, when you're looking at trends, I think you have to consider what's trending in your own backyard. So in Minneapolis, what are the newest locations that have opened? A few years ago, it was US Bank Stadium for us, was the newest, coolest, greatest thing in town. We then hosted the Super Bowl, and it's still, people love to go to that stadium still to see us where the, the Super Bowl stadium where it just was. So what, when you're considering a holiday party trend, look in your own backyard. What's going on? What are the newest venues? What's the newest entertainment? I know another big thing for us, we just got Topgolf in Minnesota.
I was
We're a
going to
little
say Top
behind
Golf
on,
is really big.
we're
Yeah.
behind on that curve, but Topgolf is insanely, if you're talking about trends right now, that couldn't be more popular. And so that's a huge one for us. I mean, I think they're already almost booked up for the whole holiday season when we try and get groups in there. So looking around in your own backyard and just considering what's new to your community that your guests might be interested in or haven't had the opportunity to go and see yet.
Yeah, I just went to an event this week actually at Audi Field, which is the new soccer stadium in Washington D.C. And
Yeah.
I don't think there was a single person at the event who had been there yet. And it was a
Perfect.
really, really cool event space. We got to go out in the stadium, take pictures with the field and everything. And it was just a really cool, unique venue that I don't think people considered a soccer stadium as like a party venue. But
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
great. It was really,
love
really
Yeah,
that.
because I mean,
brand new
that right
space.
there is something that you may not do on a regular basis. So
Right.
really thinking about your audience and finding those spaces of going, okay, maybe not everybody goes to venue X, and find that to where they get to experience something that they're not going to experience in their everyday life, because then that has meaning. There's a special touch there. And those are the things that people really walk away and remember, like, wow, I was at the soccer field, and I will never probably go back.
Right.
I think another thing to consider with your venue too is when we talk about holiday parties, your holiday party is supposed to be celebratory for your employees, which means if you're an employee and your normal commute to your office is, let's say a 30-minute commute is usually pretty average, maybe a little long for employees to get to the office every day. Wherever you're selecting your holiday party, don't have it be more than 30 minutes away from the office or have it be outside of that normal scope of their commute. Because it's supposed to be a reward for your employees. It's supposed to be celebratory. It's supposed to be setting it off on a good tone. And so when you think about that venue that can really make or break your party, pick something that's convenient for your audience. If you're asking your guests to drive an extra hour without providing transportation, all of a sudden it goes from a reward to an obligation and something that they feel they have to do. And then the complete tone of your event is set off from the very beginning. You kind of lose some oomph there, I guess. I don't know.
You mentioned. Go ahead.
I think something that kind of builds on that, and you see this more in the restaurants and really the engagements that people tend to enjoy on a regular basis, is really engaging the senses. Like, treat your senses and make sure that whatever venue that you pick or whatever experience you're going to create for your, the corporate client and the employees is really how are you going to engage all of those sensory reactions that are going to take place during the event. So that's really another one of those trends that's kind of, you see a lot happening in the restaurant world and in the catering industry. So you really want to make sure that all those areas are really pulling together nicely.
Well, and I'm glad you brought up restaurants, because what I was going to ask was, are you seeing a shift in time of day of when these parties are taking place? I know traditionally, usually they're at night, they're a big thing, but I'm seeing more and more of these happening during the lunch hour,
Yep.
and
During lunch hours. Yeah,
is
most
that a trend?
definitely.
Yeah.
Yep, most definitely.
That, and I think not only time of day, but
Time of year.
also.
Yeah.
I mean, so, okay, Halloween's tomorrow. What about instead of having, November and December, I know personally my schedule is completely shot. I have so many family obligations and holiday Christmas programs at school to go see and with the nephews and everything. I mean, what if you completely flipped your holiday party concept upside down and throw a blowout Halloween bash? Halloween's tomorrow. It's my favorite holiday. I would be so pumped if we had a huge Halloween party instead of a Christmas party, trying to fit it into the existing crazy schedules. So, I mean, I think rethinking your holiday party experience for your attendees could certainly be a trend. And in the time of year, whether it's earlier or into the new year, we do a ton of holiday parties in January and February after the craziness is over.
And that
Interesting.
really goes back to events with meaning, because you're caring about your employees and you're respecting their time with their families, so there's the meaning behind that you really want to make sure that we are guiding our clients properly to execute these events at the right time.
Is it also a budget thing? I assume it's cheaper out of not around the actual holiday.
Yeah,
that can be a benefit, but I mean, at the same time, the venue is still going to be the same price in December, but most people are going to will and deal with you whenever it's in an off season, which January, February usually is a little bit more of an off season, depending on what part of the world and country you're in.
Have you seen any like Christmas in July parties also? The whole summer
done that actually.
holiday party? Yeah.
I also love Christmas, so if we can extend the Christmas all year long, I mean,
There's
I am
Thanksgiving.
okay, forget about Thanksgiving. Christmas music comes out on November 1st.
It
The
starts
day
tomorrow,
after,
actually.
it starts 2 days.
Yeah, 2 days.
Very good time.
So
So we keep throwing out Christmas. I think
Yeah.
considering your employee base is super important, right? So I celebrate Christmas. We have employees that are, celebrate the Jewish holidays or whatever your celebrations are at that time. I think, again, it goes back to thinking about your employee base and making sure you are honoring, calling it a holiday party instead of a specific holiday in nature. We do a lot of winter type parties, especially in Minnesota, where the ice luges come out and wintry elements. So it works. It's super easy for us in the north during the colder season to match that. But just considering and being respectful and of your attendees. I think
So-
that's yeah.
Yeah, on that note, I was going to ask about how do you be inclusive to all those religions and making sure that it is, non-denominational and things like that, and it's not a Christmas party, especially when you're talking about things like decor, right? Like having Santa come to your party, having all the decor be green and red. Like how do you navigate that?
Well, food is a huge one, and with David's background, I think he can speak to that a little bit.
I mean, it really is. For once, I'm speechless. Can you believe that?
Oh my
Can you
God!
believe that in the social media world?
Let's start with
Um,
I think it all comes down to theme and the
Yeah.
entertainment that you're using. So you mentioned Greatest Showman last year was super popular. I foresee this year, like David was saying, Bohemian Rhapsody came out in the last year. The Rocket Man with Elton John came out. So it's going to be sort of that era of music that's going to be super popular this winter. And so if you go with a theme and you really go down that path, you totally eliminate any mention of Santa or the dreidel game or, certain colors that are going to drive attendees to think that you're pushing one way or another. I have a client right now, we're doing a masquerade ball for their holiday party. So totally different concept or theme. It moves away from anything holiday oriented. So I think if you drive it with a theme, knowing that you do have a diverse work base, you can kind of get away from any of that.
Do you ever find that attendees are disappointed though when you have a holiday party that doesn't specifically celebrate the holidays?
No, because I think it's almost refreshing.
Yeah.
Because I think the holidays are,
Yeah.
unfortunately, they're saturated. And I mean, as much as I love Christmas, I would put my Christmas tree up in October if I could. But yeah, hers is already up. I'm fighting with my husband to put mine up. But I don't think everybody likes that, so I
Yeah.
think that, less is more there, and I think that people really do appreciate that. And I think that's why that it's nice to do it in a non-season time of year, because people really do appreciate that. Man, wow, that was refreshing. It wasn't so Christmas in your face and holiday cookies and gingerbread houses and, all that jazz.
So to that point though, so say that you were doing a corporate event. I mean, David mentioned this, but with any holiday celebration for your employees, the key there is celebration. And I think it's also the word authenticity. I think with corporate events, it's really important to be authentic in that message that's coming across. So you want to be authentic in the fact that you're celebrating with your employees and providing them an opportunity to bring a spouse or a partner or whoever it is to celebrate the year that just took place. So maybe you have a holiday event and your employees get to go to Topgolf, or you have a masquerade ball, or whatever it is. And then you also do a family-centric event, another holiday type option where it's breakfast with Santa or breakfast with Rudolph or, whoever, and have more of a daytime family-centric. The kids can come. There's cookies and Santa and snow and the whole 9 yards. So you can still celebrate holidays in that way, but it's shorter, it's cheaper, it's family centric, and then you can have sort of a big celebration a different day for your employees.
So what trends would you say are dead? What should people stop doing?
Again, out of all respect to like the ballroom and the hotels and those clients that want to do this, I think buffets need to die.
It's like the event where you go through the line and you have a big plate of food and then you sit down at a table and you're just eating this huge plate of food.
Yourself.
It's going to make you full and people aren't going to be up and moving around. And I think so the style of food.
Yeah, people really want experiences. So a buffet is not as much of an experience sometimes. So what kind of immersive food experience can you give the attendees that are going to be there? Is something that I know that I've heard clients really want to go after, and they're engaged. There are times where they're really scared because that is different, but I think different is good because events are all psychology. So when you put them inside of a very unique situation where they're uncomfortable, that's a good thing because it forces them to use the other side of their brain, which is the fun side, which is the recipe for a very successful event.
The other thing I think is dead is the drawn out events where you get there for an hour-and-a-half cocktail reception, followed by an hour dinner, followed by 30 minutes of presentation from your executives, followed by 3 hours of uncomfortable DJ dancing with your coworkers that you never want to see dance anyways. So I think the long drawn out holiday party that just never seems to end and that you're super uncomfortable at is also dead. Like just do away with it. Go with 2 to 3 hours, knock it out of the park, get in, get out, and let your employees move on with their lives.
Something to think about. What if instead of where you had a shorter reception, what if you started the whole event with dessert instead of starting it with a cocktail hour? Completely mix up that whole timeline to, again, challenge your attendees to really be uncomfortable, to really want to experience something that's a little bit different.
I like that. I like that idea. So we've talked a lot about food, right? So what are some food trends that we're seeing this holiday season? What's kind of out there and new that maybe people haven't experienced before?
Well, I think that in the food industry, it's all about engagement again. I know that I use that word a lot, but I do. And the reason that I say that is because you want them to not just go up to a station, get an item, and walk away. So giving them that experience of give them the different components to complete whatever the food item is, or experiencing a salad in a different way. I know that this trend's been out there for a long time, but doing a salad teeny station. So instead of it being just a salad that you get out of a bowl, put it in a shaker, put the dressing in there, and then they get to shake up the salad themselves. Say, what if the food is suspended from the ceiling and they're cutting something off to start the food experience to finish it at a station? You know, like, how can you engage the attendees during the food experience? Because it's not just pick up and walk away experience for the guest.
Yeah, I think.
Well, and I think I think it's interesting because you mentioned the whole sensory experience, right?
Yeah.
Like, food is not just activating the sense of taste. It's activating how it looks and how it feels and smells. So I think that that's really important to recognize, that like food can be a complete sensory experience beyond
100%. And
tasting.
I think as a corporate planner and a producer, really finding that partner that can be brought in the beginning, because sometimes, you know, you're worried about the venue, you get a theme, and then all food's an afterthought. Oh, let's just throw up a buffet. But really engaging that full experience of how is the food going to be a part of telling that story for the night. You know, maybe you're using the food to, you know, it's artwork. They're part of the artwork of it, you know. I've seen it where an entire plexiglass table they were creating the dessert station during the entire event, where they're painting on and drizzling on the chocolate. And it was this art piece that was created. And then the last element was them placing the different pieces of the desserts there for them to complete. I mean, there's so much you can do even with design with food. It's a big bang for your buck, you know. I think components and layering, you see it in every restaurant you go to. So the chef, engaging with that chef and seeing how you can, the different flavors that you can layer in, the different sauces you can layer in. You know, you always forget that chicken item doesn't always have to come with a mango papaya salsa or a barbecue. Give the guest an option to finish the food the way that they want to.
A lot of corporate events, food's an afterthought.
It really is.
Content and messaging is more important. At the annual conference, it's all about what's the CEO saying from the main stage. Holiday parties are all about how you make them feel and what impression you know they're leaving with to feel special. So I don't know about you, but I feel special when my stomach is full of something delicious. Just saying. Don't we all?
So what is your favorite food trend that you've seen in the last year?
Mine is like when someone's doing something cool and then I get to like enjoy it. So like the people that wear the oyster belts and they walk around the events and they're shucking the oysters right then and there for you. It's like I'm entertained, I'm fed something delicious, and I have a drink in my hand. I mean, I don't know what more I could possibly ask for.
So going off of the oyster belts, because that's been a really, really big trend in the industry. But another way to look at that is you find a caterer that's willing to do what I've called, because I did these back in the day, they're called foodie belts. So you have this burger tower that has, say, a bunch of different sliders, you know, chicken slider, a regular burger, a veggie, whatever the type of burger, and in the small boxes that have a brand experience on top of them, they go get the burger, but then they go to the servers that have the foodie belts on, and those foodie belts have the finishing touches to the burger. So they've got a squeeze bottle in their bucket that's got aiolis and ketchups and mustards, but they've got pickles and lettuce and tomato. So in these foodie belts with these servers, they get them together are finishing the food elements for the element, the item, whatever it is. Smoking, the smoking guns, doing the clochets, the glass clochets, and then steam, smoking it, giving it that smoke feel, and then lifting it off. Again, it's a theatrical experience. Another one is oh my gosh, it was on the tip of my tongue. I'll remember in a minute, but there's just those whole, again, how can you use something in a different way? The chocolate orbs that has the dessert inside, and then they drizzle the hot chocolate or caramel on top and it melts apart. All of these different, it goes back to that sensory reaction experience that they're going to have with the food item.
Yeah, I think one of the ones that I have seen recently in the last couple of years is the gastropub guys with the big torches. Yeah. I mean, it's such a unique experience that you don't walk down, at a party to the food buffet and see some guy blowing fire into the air. Like, it's not
A few years ago, I mean, the craft breweries and pubs and all of that have obviously exploded all across the country. Minneapolis, we have a ton of them. So, I mean, 4 or 5 years ago, I think having craft brews and craft beer tasting stations was super popular. I think a new huge thing is hard seltzer, whether or not you want to admit it or not. We all love it. It's delicious. And so I think having different seltzers available or thinking about what's on your bar that's open to your guests, that definitely is a current popular trend.
I know I appreciate that trend because I just got diagnosed with celiac. So I'm like,
I
can't.
no.
Yeah, so I can't have beer anymore. So I've been drinking cider for years. And so I'm like, oh, at least I can still have cider. But I love the other options. And anytime I'm at an event where they have other options besides just beer and wine, I'm happy. So
Yeah, exactly.
I love that trend.
Yeah. I think so. I know while you guys were talking about food, I was thinking about other things that at holiday parties just get to you, and it's like, what else is dead? But have you ever been to a holiday party where there's a raffle of some sort, and then from stage it's like calling out number 1, 2, 3, number 1, 2, 3. Come and get your prize. I mean, if you have 400 people there, that's a lot of raffle numbers. You're going to just sit and wait for the time. So honestly, I think the obligatory raffle where you have to hand out 20 prizes and only 20 out of the 600 people at your party are going to get a prize to go home with. Let's end it. Let's find something more creative that they can take home with them, whether or not it's a to-go bag with some snacks or some sort of gifting experience or gifting suite that everyone gets to walk through. I mean, I think looking at your budget to figure out an alternative is way better.
And I love you see a lot of boutiques these days that are popping up instead of the mass malls and the big stores, the big box stores.
Yeah.
So creating that boutique experience with whatever it is, maybe it's where you get to pick your different stuff, but to end the night, maybe it has that boutique donut shop kind of a feel, and they get to create their breakfast for the next day. Where you go up to a counter, you pick out 3 donuts. Maybe it's on a Saturday night, so you're going to do a takeaway Bloody Mary bar where you get all the components to make a Bloody Mary in the morning, or a mimosa to where you get the bottle of champagne and the bottle of orange juice that you get to take away with you at the end of the night, to where it's like you're treating them even the next day, that when they wake up, they're thinking about that party and going, wow, that was a really cool event last night. Man, look, I even got breakfast out of it. Like, how can you really extend the experience to whenever they get home is how you really want to create that buzz that's never going to end.
So on that note, you have to mention social media, right? Like, people continuing to talk and think about the event after the event happens.
The social media guy has to mention social media.
I know, I have to mention social media, but photo booths and unique photo booths is a huge thing that I'm seeing. Is that something that you're seeing at holiday parties, or are people incorporating things beyond just the normal photo booth?
It's taken it to the next level.
Yeah, so we work with Photo Partner here in Minneapolis, and we do a ton of different creative activations or setups. I've done photo booth scenarios. I think it's all about that picture or that moment in time that can then be shared on social media, obviously after. But we've done photo booths where it's a trick of the eye, so it's a sizing thing. So if David and I were standing next to each other, I look like I'm 2 feet tall and he looked like he's 10 feet tall. You know, doing a unique op like that, or doing one of the newest things we've seen is a glam booth. And so that includes going in, it's just a regular photo booth, but the photo software does instantaneous touch up on your skin. So when your picture prints out or when you share it to yourself, you look all airbrushed and beautiful with perfect light on it.
I want that.
I know, I love that. But
I'm 35 again.
maybe not 35. And then, you know, Snapchat filters are super popular, Instagram filters. So having photo booth experiences where people can put those filters on their face and it takes it right there in the image.
One of my favorite that I know that you're getting ready to do at an event is selfie stations. Everybody does selfies. So you're setting up like 5 selfie station experiences settings to where they can go in there and create really fun, different selfies just themselves. And then you have a photographer that's going from area to area. When they're done with their selfie, they can get an official picture. You know, people love to post.
I knew I was going to get Disney in here somewhere, but one of the things that Disneyland and Disney World has started doing at all of their parks is just that. So if you look it up online, they have all of these walls that they've started painting or creating in the Magic Kingdom in Disney World. It's called the Purple Wall. And if you look it up online, all of these Disney people are taking pictures in front of, it's just a wall that's painted purple, but now it has a following and it's a full thing. But having, I mean, it could be a simple pattern, simple texture, simple design. It could be the sequins, the mermaid sequins that you can play up and down. But just having those spots at your events for people then to pose with in pictures and share online, it's going to create those moments.
Well, and you mentioned the takeaway, right? Having takeaways, and I think photos is another thing. Like I've seen where you do a motion or something and they print out a flip book that you can move through. I think that's
motion is another super popular one. The slow motion booths. I don't know if you'd consider it video or photo, but where it's
it counts. It counts.
Yeah, it counts. Where you toss it up in the air and then you get that 10-second clip that you can share online. Those are super popular too.
Well, that also the 360 or the 180 gifts
with the line of cameras.
You're frozen and you jump in the air and it goes around you. I know we did that at an event as a team and it was super cool, and they threw some confetti in the air and it just looked really awesome. And I'm sure with holiday events, just from the time of the season, slow-mo, just throwing some like fake snow in the air, things like that.
Yeah, exactly. I know. Another fun one is with our photo partner Time Into Pixels is they just did an activation at the X Games where it looks like you were riding a BMX bike, and they edit it on the fly and then make it look like you're going over that half pipe or whatever that thing is called, but editing right there on the fly, customizing it. So then that is your takeaway. You don't need to do, that, put it in a nice frame. Okay, maybe not your X Games photo, but even if you do couples portraits, how often do you get a nice picture with your spouse, your partner, whoever it is? Put it in a nice picture frame, and there you go. Keep it simple.
Yeah, and the illusion thing that you mentioned too. I've seen the boxes of the rooms where it looks like you're standing on the ceiling and things like that. Those are
They have that museum in New York. I think it's like the Museum of Illusions or something, but all of those like little setups where it's just the trick of the eye, and that could be a whole theme for an event. That would be so much fun.
And they get a lot of traction on social media, which people love. It's like, oh, my photo's getting so many likes. This is amazing, right?
I know.
So
I think the photo leans into, one area we haven't talked about obviously is technology and how that plays into everything. As you're capturing those photos on site, having screens where then it's being live broadcasted so people can see what's going on. You can create buzz right there in the event. I mean, technology should play a role. I think with holiday parties, you want to have that warm feeling. So, I mean, how much is too much? I mean, I think be smart about how you use it. But I mean, technology's on your cell phones, Lyft and Uber. How, that is something that's 5-10 years ago, we didn't have that. And so if you were providing transportation, it was transportation for your guests via motor coach or mini coach, and that's how you were getting them to and from your event. And now you can get everyone at the company a Lyft code or an Uber code and make sure they get there and back safely, right? So I think there's a time and place for both group transportation and Lyft and Uber, but that's a great example.
And I think another technology and another piece to some of these events that attendees are at is they can't carry on a conversation with the person next to them. So the silent DJ, the wireless headsets, is a way for part of the room to be tearing it up on the dance floor and not, making an embarrassment out of themselves. But the rest of the room has soft, lounge music where you can still carry on a conversation. So it's two parties within one room. So it's those different experiences that they can have within the same space.
And I think that gets to the engagement factor, right? Like, how do you get employee engagement at the events too is not having blasting music where people can't hear each other, right? Like, that's part of that experience. And people start to disengage when they feel like they're not getting the experience that they want, right? So talk a little bit about, general employee engagement at these events.
Yeah, I know. I think we've talked about, giveaways for employees and, employee engagement, I guess. How do you define it? It's getting the buy-in from your employees, the nod of the head or the I'm going in, I'm jumping in, and I'm going to really fully participate. So how do you do that? You reward them. You have giveaways. You have some sort of experience that they're going to want to do or take part of. So another huge component of that I've seen is the do-it-yourself kind of trend that's going on. So you see, like, we just got Upstairs Circus. That's a new kind of DIY. The paint canvas places, that's been a big thing. And so, with employee engagement, it's like, once they get to you at the holiday party, give them something to do. Let them do like some sort of do-it-yourself, take home keepsake or something that they can then bring back with them and remember your event, but sort of leaning on that do-it-yourself crafty vibe a little bit.
And I think there's one area of that, what the holidays really are all about is giving and caring about your neighbor. So making sure maybe it doesn't have all these giveaways and spending a lot of money on this or that and the other, but really having that give back component to where you're giving back to the community in one way or the other, to whatever that is. Maybe you're hosting a Christmas party for, a women's shelter, and you pick 10 families that are there, a part of the event. I know that I've attended events like that, and I walked away and I thought, man, that was one of my most favorite pieces and memories of my holiday season. So how can you really, again, engage in a different way is a way to think about the engagement piece at an event.
Well, that do-it-yourself and the CSR thing, I think, is important, because it's one thing to have your company go up on stage and say, oh, look, we're going to donate this big check to this organization. It's another thing to be part of the experience. Like, I attended an event where we stuffed teddy bears, and you could either take it home for your own kid, or any ones that were stuffed and donated went to a children's hospispital. Right. So,
and I bet pretty much every single one was sitting in the pile for the children's hospital. Every single one. Or people would sit there for 20 minutes and stuff too. Bears, one to take home to the children's hospital. Right. Another do-it-yourself that I'm seeing a lot, which gets to like health and wellness and that kind of nature thing and it being green, is like these build your own succulent stations and
which I think are kind of taking off, especially because no one wants to take care of a plant anymore, right?
I would probably kill it, let's be honest.
I think I killed a succulent this year.
It's like, oh, it's not gonna die. I can do this.
And it does.
Right? But yeah, so seeing that kind of crafty and that different element, and then especially for a corporate event like that with employees, you then see people take that and put that on their desk, right? So it reminds them of the party all year round, right?
Yeah.
So I think that gets them into the engagement and, you know, extending the memory of the event beyond just the event. Right.
At the end of the day, people are going to remember how you made them feel. They're going to remember, you know, and we all want to feel good. I feel good when I help others. I feel good when I'm doing something active or doing something with my hands. So incorporating all of that into the event experience, give your employees something tangible so then they can leave and go and talk about it and tell everyone what they did.
You know, we talk a lot about these engagements. I have seen out there where companies are not doing the big holiday party with everybody involved. They're doing smaller engagements with departments to where you really do have time to really connect with the ones that you're working the closest to.
Yeah.
And like you said, going to the paint party and there's only 20 instead of 200, you know. That is another way that you really can engage outside the office whenever you're not beating the pavement to get your work done.
So we're kind of getting towards the end here. I want to hear from each of you. What is your top holiday party trend of 2019? You can only pick one.
Oh, geez. My top
trend. I would, you want to go first?
I would say,
I'm going with hard seltzer. Can I pick something we already talked about? I'm going to declare it. There's going to be hard seltzer at everyone's holiday party, and that's that. Does that count? No, I'm just kidding.
That
I
counts.
think that, I think food and beverage and making sure that, you know, all the things we talked about related to that. I think hard seltzer, and to that end, I think we talked a little bit about like the succulents, a little bit of how that leans into that sort of activity. But thinking about that even in the design elements, we didn't talk a ton about, but that sort of, there's a certain design aesthetic that follows that kind of concept where it's a very at-home Joanna Gaines type design, ambiance, look and feel. I would also, my prediction is that is going to be a large trend in what we'll see with the decor and the design of these holiday party events.
and I will piggyback off of that, is with design, is challenging yourself in the trend of thinking outside the box. And as we all know, the color of the year is coral. So how can you incorporate that color of the year into a design that is not your typical holiday party feel and look? Patterns, textures, it's right. It's mixing all of those pieces all together in a very unique way that pulls together an unforgettable event. Food trend, I will say some kind of a sensory reaction experience.
With blindfolds,
Yes.
with like taste test this and tell you what it is, maybe. I don't
Yeah.
know. Well, I want to know if you were to go, because I'm a big theme event person, which I guess hit or miss on the themes, but if you were to go to a holiday party, what theme would you want it to be? What would mine be?
Disney.
No, you can't oversaturate. That's reserved for special occasions.
Theme-wise?
I would love to go to like a Bohemian Rhapsody party or theme this year, just all out Freddie Mercury.
I'm
to the
kind of
nth
with you, and it's one of those movies, or people sometimes, I do, love to get dressed up.
Yeah.
So create your own Met Gala, to what that, let them get dressy and fancy. I love being
what theme would
fancy.
you want, Alex?
What theme would I want? I kind of love the Bohemian Rhapsody and the Elton John with the Rocket Man theme. Like, I kind of just want to be in a photo booth with like a big giant fuzzy rainbow like fur coat that I can throw on and some boas.
I mean, how cool will it be to have selfie stations from all the different costume concepts from the Rocket Man? Have big feather wings to put on and have the horns, and it just would be
his
so
piano
incredibly cool.
and just to be like scrolled out with the piano. I think that would be super cool.
Agreed.
Yeah. I also, for me, I think looking at like Oscar parties and what they're doing, I think is something that's really cool. Vanity Fair does something every year. It's called The Elevator. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Obsessed.
Yes.
I know exactly what you're talking
Obsessed with it. So basically, for those who don't know, look it up. Vanity Fair, Oscar party, elevator video. They have these elevator doors that open, and you're just surprised. Each celebrity does something completely different. They have an actor there playing a bellhop, and everyone kind of engages him in a different way. You've got like two surprise actors kissing when the doors open, or people just like get out and like they do crazy stuff. You have to watch it. And I love that idea for like a holiday party of taking those short, 5-10 second clips that you can post to your own social media, but then taking all those clips that everyone created throughout the night and sharing that with like the company. I think that's super fun.
I completely agree, and I cannot wait for Oscar season to see what they do this year.
It's super fun, and getting those actors to come in and kind of play along too. So it's not one thing about photo booths and video booths, and one of the things I hear from people all the time is, "Oh, I'm not going to do it because I don't know I don't know how to pose, I don't know what actions to do, whatever." Yeah. Having an actor there as an extra who can kind of make you feel more comfortable and suggest things to you is super helpful. So
having a character I think is, awesome entertainment, and coaching that entertainment beforehand, like, hey, we're not here to like, have you ever been and there's like an impersonator who's just like ragging on you and just won't let up? It's like, let's not do that. How about we make our people feel good instead and like lift them up and help them get into this spirit? People are gonna have such a better time. Like, don't just poke fun at them. There's a time and place, don't get me wrong, but have those characters there to, like you said, Alex, like really make them feel a part of it.
Well, and making people feel special too. You see these videos that come out of these Oscar parties also, where it's just like these rows of the colored lights or the bright lights, and it's like this black tunnel, and they do like 3 short clips where you're doing something and you kind of move from the back to the front to the middle, and it just creates this like cool, very professional looking, it looks like you're modeling for like some ad. I think doing something like that and making people feel special in that way and giving that as that takeaway is really cool too.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Love it.
So we've talked about a lot of tips. So normally I would ask you, if you could only pick one, what is your one tip you have for event planners? But I'm going to actually switch it up. I want to ask you, since we talked about themes and our favorite themes, what is one theme that needs to die? What do you never want to see again?
Hold on. Let us think.
For holiday season or year round?
For holidays.
Honestly, and I know that this might sound generic, and I said earlier, like with decor, you can do like a winter vibe twist on it. But if I have to do one more like white winter, white trees, ice, like glistening, like centerpieces that are filled with like crystal beads that are supposed to look like ice because it's cold. It's like, okay, we get it. It's cold. It's winter. Like, let's be a little more creative. So that's probably like the ice party, maybe a white party.
The winter wonderland thing.
The winter wonderland white party. It's like, let's move on with our lives.
We're done. We're done with the winter wonderland.
the kitschy Toyland, big nutcrackers, big candy canes, where it's just like you went into FAO Schwartz, which there's nothing wrong with that. But it again, I think that is one of those go-tos that people are like, let's just have it feel like a big Toyland. It's like, okay, guys, it's been there, done that for how many years? Let's move on.
Let it go, in the words of Elsa.
All right, well, now if Elsa's going to be at the white party, I might be reconsidering since that involves
Exactly.
Disney.
If you do a Winter Wonderland, Frozen, whole different story.
It's completely different, guys, because then we're talking like
Digital mapping and all that kind of stuff. Yes. Yes.
Awesome. So do you have our last question before we wrap up, do you have any new cool resources you want to share? Where do you get your inspiration from? What websites should people check out? Blogs, books?
Well, they should definitely check out metroconnections.com to find our beautiful faces. But we have some holiday tips and tricks up on our website, some different resources there for people to check out. I know for both of us, we find a lot of inspiration from design websites, resources, industry mags, BizBash, special event.
I think one of my biggest inspirations is all the window designs in New York City. So maybe even look and see what they did last year. Those are going to start being revealed here really, really soon. So you would have time to recreate those at what Bergdorf's is doing and Macy's and, you know, all those different storefronts and even the storefronts in your own town. You know, there are some stores that really take it over the top because they are using the latest and greatest design trends to create all these window designs. So that is, you know, probably my biggest place for inspiration for retail. You know,
look at retail, their windows, but also the products that they have in the stores, because ultimately they're producing for the masses there. So take a walk through your favorite retailer and see what inspiration you can pull from objects.
Awesome. Well, that's it for today. We talked so many holiday party trends. Thank you so much, Sydney and David, for joining us today. For anyone wondering, how can they get a hold of you? Where can they find you online, follow you?
So I'm on Instagram at Sid Wolf, and then Facebook, and then our Metro Connections Facebook, and on our website we have all our contact information.
Yeah, website, Facebook, David Everett, Instagram, D Everett Designs, LinkedIn. I mean, all those places you can find us. Oh, there, Kim was singing it.
You got it. That was your goal. You did
it. Well, on that note, thank you so much for joining us. Sydney, thanks for coming back, and David for being here for the first time. For those of you watching live, you know we record live each Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern at event-icons.com. Episodes are available the following Tuesday on all your favorite podcast apps. But the best place to watch is live at event-icons.com. There you can see the show notes, links to all the resources that have been shared, and you can join the chat right there on the page. As always, we want to know what you think. Reach out to us on social media. Tell us who you want to see on the show. And that's it for this week's episode. Thank you so much, and we will see you next Wednesday here at #EventIcons.
So long. Farewell. Jazz hands.
Thank you for joining us for another amazing episode of #EventIcons.
To catch all the bonus content, resources mentioned, and an invite to our Facebook and LinkedIn groups,
head to www.event-icons.com. Also, let us know what you thought about this week's episode. Share your biggest takeaway. Just tag your post with #EventIcons. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you again for joining us. We'll see you next Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, right here on #EventIcons.